The Helios Council chamber was cold and vast. It stretched like a frozen starbase, walls gleaming with metal and glass. At its center floated a massive hologram of the Nebula maze, a swirling, glowing web of twisting gas clouds and deadly radiation storms. The maze pulsed with color, green, violet, red, each color marking a trap, a storm, a death zone. "Humans," said Supreme Commander Vrax, his voice sharp as shattered ice. "Primitive mammals, reckless, fragile, nothing but chaos in fragile skin." Around him, the other Helios leaders nodded, their eyes flickering with disdain. The Helios were a proud war race, proud of their advanced tech, their perfect discipline, their long history of crushing lesser species. "How could such weak creatures pose any threat?" sneered General Kesh. "Their technology is crude, their ships fragile husks, they are not even worth the effort." A hollow screen flickered with a live feed of the captured human ship, the UESN Phoenix, held like a prize within the Helios fleet. The humans were trapped, their sensors flickering against the maze's deadly radiation. This was the perfect punishment or test. The Nebula maze was infamous throughout the galaxy. It was a labyrinth of cosmic storms and spatial distortions. Ships that entered unprepared were shredded by radiation or lost in endless loops of shifting gas currents. Even the most advanced navicomputers failed to map its paths. Many fleets had vanished here, swallowed whole by the glowing death clouds. "The maze will end them," Vrax said, voice low and certain. "If they survive, it will be a miracle." But miracles are for weak minds. Suddenly, a shadow moved at the edge of the chamber. Elder Tivian Ambassador Yelkar stepped forward. The Tivian were ancient, older than the Helios, guardians of wisdom and cosmic law. "Supreme Commander," Yelkar said, voice deep and calm like a distant storm, "do not underestimate these humans." Vrax sneered. "Old tales, Ambassador, folklore from dying worlds. Humanity is a flicker in the dark." Yelkar's eyes burned with quiet fire. "The ancient archives speak of humans surviving impossible odds. They endure storms no others can. Their chaos is not weakness, but strength. Strength." Kesh laughed bitterly. "Their battles are clumsy. Their victories mere luck." The Tivian ambassador shook his head. "Luck is a word for those who refuse to learn. Humans adapt. They survive because they refuse to die quietly." The chamber fell silent. The Helios counselors exchanged uneasy looks. No one wanted to admit it, but the Tivian had wisdom beyond their pride. Vrax's voice cut through the tension. "Very well. Let us test this human strength. We will force them into the Nebula maze. Let their recklessness meet the maze's fury." He gestured, and the hologram zoomed in on the maze's deadliest sectors, swirling storms of energy that could fry unshielded ships in seconds. Spatial rifts twisted reality, scrambling sensors and warping navigation. "If they survive here," Vrax said slowly, "then perhaps they deserve to roam the stars. But if they fail," he let the words hang. The implication was clear. He let the words hang. They would watch from safe distance as humans faced death and chaos far beyond their fragile reach. Captain Zuri Castillo's name came up in the Council's final plans, a minor detail to the Helios. A human commander, young and unproven. "Send them the challenge," Vrax ordered. "The maze awaits." As the chamber dimmed, the chilling glow of the Nebula maze lingered, an endless puzzle of destruction. And beneath the cold stars, the humans prepared to enter the impossible. But as the Helios studied the maze, their ancient records whispered a chilling truth. Many who entered never returned. In a vast chamber deep within the Tivian homeworld, towering shelves of glowing data orbs hummed softly. Elder Tivian scholars gathered around a central holostand. Streams of light flickered, showing scenes from long ago, flaming wreckage drifting in empty space, shattered hulls spiraling into dead planets, and ghostly echoes of lost fleets. "Humans," intoned Elder Valon, his many eyes narrowing with concern. "They are reckless, yes, primitive by our standards. But do not mistake recklessness for weakness. A younger Tivian, Analyst Trellis, leaned closer to a hologram. The legends say humans have survived worlds where nothing else lived. They endure heat, cold, poison. Their ancestors scratched life from barren rocks. Baylan's voice softened, almost a warning. And they thrive amid chaos, where others demand order and logic. Humans trust their instincts. They fight with what they feel, not just what they calculate. Across the room, a Helios officer scoffed. Instinct, childish luck. It will not save them inside the Nebula maze. The radiation alone will tear them apart. But luck is not the whole story, Baylan replied gravely. These tales come from elder races like the Kaluri and the Bashari, who fell because they underestimated human unpredictability. The holostand shifted, revealing ancient battlefields. Ghostly ships, once proud, now burned in silent ruin. Look here, Baylan pointed. The Kaluri fleet was caught in a trap much like this maze. They believed humans would surrender or flee. Instead, humanity fought back with brutal cunning. They turned the trap against their enemies. A murmur rippled through the gathering. Analyst Trellis added, the Vishari thought humans were fragile. They attacked with overwhelming force, expecting a quick victory. They lost their entire command sector. Helios, Captain Neris crossed his arms, frustration clear. These are just stories, legends from outdated data. Our sensors show humans as frail, slow to adapt to advanced hazards. Elder Baylan's eyes gleamed sharply. You dismiss the lessons of history. But remember, humans have survived the void plagues that wiped out entire colonies. Their biology is resilient, their minds unpredictable. Another Tivian scholar, Miri, added, they seem illogical. But that is their strength. They break patterns, confuse enemies, and survive where others fail. They do not fear chaos, they command it. Neris sneered. The maze will be their grave. No instinct or luck can shield them from ion storms that burn through shields or spatial distortions that tear ships apart. But what if the maze is a challenge humans can meet? What if their strange abilities allow them to navigate where no others could? Mira's voice was barely a whisper. Baylan turned to Neris, voice low and serious. We may be about to learn the true cost of underestimating humanity. The Helios officer clenched his jaw. Then we will watch as they fall. Outside the chamber, the swirling colors of the Nebula maze glowed ominously. Twisting columns of electrified gas and crackling radiation leapt like deadly serpents in space. The maze was a prison and a tomb. Many species had tried to pass through. Few had lived to tell the tale. But the Tivian warnings echoed a different story, a story of humans who did not just survive, but who conquered impossible odds with sheer will and strange instinct. Colonel Lisa Hayes' name was unknown here, but soon her crew would rewrite those ancient records. The Helios underestimated them at their own peril. But while the Helios legend spoke of certain doom, Colonel Hayes saw something different, an impossible challenge waiting to be solved. Inside the UESN Phoenix, the hum of engines buzzed like a heartbeat. The bridge was alive with quiet energy. The walls glowed faint blue from countless control panels. Outside, vast clouds of swirling nebula gas twisted in ghostly light, flickering red and purple. The deadly maze waited. Hayes stood tall by the main viewport. Her eyes scanned the glowing maze beyond. It's not luck or chance that will get us through, she said, voice steady and sharp. It's resolve, and we have plenty of that. Captain Zuri Castillo leaned over the tactical console. Her fingers flew across holographic maps and sensor readouts. Sensors are already glitching. The nebula's radiation is shredding our arrays. We'll lose most automated navigation inside. Hayes nodded. That's why we're not relying on sensors. Not this time. Admiral Rohan Petrov's voice crackled over the comms from the war room below. Colonel, the Helios fleet is waiting just outside the maze. They expect us to fail, to die. Hayes smiled grimly. Then they don't know humans like they think they do. The crew moved with purpose. Around them, battle-scarred consoles flickered. The Phoenix was no shiny cruiser. It bore the marks of countless skirmishes, scorched panels, dented bulkheads, and the smell of recycled air tinged with faint oil. But this ship was alive, ready. Lieutenant Amir Khan, the ship's navigation officer, approached Hayes. "Colonel, we have the experimental neural link suits ready. They're our last shot at mapping the maze blindfolded." Hayes glanced at the suits, sleek helmets wired with glowing nodes. "Good. Prepare the crew. When we enter, we shut down all sensors. We navigate by instinct, by mind." Castillo looked up sharply. "By mind? That's untested. Everything we've done so far has been tested by fire," Hayes said, her voice low but fierce. "This is how we survive where logic fails." The Phoenix shuddered as it edged closer to the nebula's edge. Outside, the swirling gases churned like a living beast. The maze was a shifting nightmare, radiation storms, spatial distortions, and deadly gas pockets. No alien had ever survived it. None but humans, maybe. "Crew, brace for entry," Hayes ordered. "This is our moment." The bridge lights dimmed to red alert, crew members strapped into their neural helmets. The air hummed with tension and focus. Castillo caught Hayes' eye. "You really believe we can pull this off?" Hayes met her gaze, unwavering. "Not just believe. I know. Humans have faced worse. Dead worlds, starvation, invading armies. We adapt, we fight, we win." The view outside twisted as the Phoenix pierced the nebula's outer veil. Streams of crackling energy danced around the ship. The stars vanished behind walls of thick, glowing gas. Sensors flickered and died. "Shutting down all sensor arrays," Castillo reported. "We're flying blind." "Good." Neural link activation in 5, 4, 3, Hayes counted down. The crew closed their eyes as the helmets locked in place. Soft hums filled the ship. Neural interfaces hummed, connecting minds in silent harmony. "Feel the maze," Hayes whispered. "Let it speak." In the dim command deck, the hum grew louder. The crew's minds synchronized, forming a mental map of the invisible maze. Each pulse of radiation, each twist in the gas clouds became a thread in their shared perception. "Coordinates are shifting," Castillo said, voice steady but amazed. "It's like we're seeing with our minds, not eyes." Hayes grinned. "Exactly. They think the maze will kill us, but it only hides the path. Together we find it." From the bridge, the ship's neural map flickered as a glowing hologram, an ever-changing web of safe corridors and deadly traps. "Ready to move on my mark," Hayes said. "We don't just survive, we outsmart." The crew tightened their grip on controls, hearts pounding. Outside, the nebula's deadly breath waited. Inside, human will blazed hotter than any star. "Let's show them what it means to be human," Hayes said, eyes shining with fire. "Phoenix, full impulse," Castillo ordered. "Into the maze." The ship surged forward, blind but unbroken. The deadly labyrinth had met its match. Just as Colonel Hayes felt a flicker of hope, the Helios ships burst from the shadows, their weapons locking onto the human fleet without warning. Bright beams of energy cut through the swirling nebula fog like deadly lightning. The Phoenix shuddered violently as pulses struck its shields. Warning lights flashed red across the command deck. "Shields at 50%, Captain Castillo shouted, her voice tight but steady. "They're using the nebula cover to ambush us." Hayes gritted her teeth. "Evasive maneuvers, scatter pattern, delta." "Don't let them pin us down." Outside, the nebula's jagged tendrils of glowing gas twisted and writhed. Strange bursts of radiation crackled like fireflies caught in a storm. The Helios warships moved like hunters stalking prey through the maze's deadly corridors. "Sensors are flickering, losing contact." Castillo's hands flew over the console. "The nebula is jamming our scanners. We're flying blind." "Communications are scrambled," reported Lieutenant Brenner from comms. "Helios is blocking our transmissions. No calls to base." Hayes' jaw tightened. "Keep your heads, armed ace. Use visual and manual controls. Trust your instincts." The Phoenix lurched as a sudden blast hit its aft thrusters. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure. Alarms screamed. Crew members gripped consoles, struggling to stay steady. "Damage report," Hayes barked. "Engine output down 20%. Life support stable. Hull integrity holding at 78, Castillo answered, eyes never leaving the flickering displays. A Helios cruiser appeared on the port side, cutting through the nebula haze, its weapons locked on again. "Prepare for counterfire," Castillo ordered. The Phoenix turrets swiveled, firing back. Pulses of plasma met Helios energy beams in a dazzling dance of light and shadow, but the nebula was no friend. Radiation storms flared without warning, sending shockwaves through space. The ship's shields flickered under constant strain. "Brace for impact," Hayes warned as a pulse hit the starboard quarter. The command deck rocked violently. Crew were thrown against consoles. Sparks flew from damaged panels. "Systems failing," Castillo shouted. "Shields down to 30%. Hayes slammed her fist on the console. "Divert all power to forward thrusters. We need to outrun them." Behind the ship, another Helios frigate emerged, flanking the Phoenix. Its weapons tore into the ship's engines. The nebulous chaos made targeting impossible, but the Helios fired anyway, confident their weapons would find a mark. "Engines critical," Castillo yelled. "We're losing thrust." Hayes scanned the twisted nebula clouds glowing outside the viewport. The maze's deadly beauty hid traps and hazards everywhere. "Hold together, team," she said, voice low but fierce. "We're not done yet." The Phoenix weaved through narrow corridors of ionized gas. Lightning-like arcs from the nebula struck nearby, sending out bursts of energy. "Visual on enemy ships," Castillo reported. "They're coordinating attacks, cutting off escape routes." "On my mark, prepare to deploy countermeasures," Hayes ordered. "We'll have to fight our way out." Suddenly, a pulse hit the main power grid. Lights flickered and died. The ship groaned in the dark. "Backup systems online," Castillo said, voice tight. Hayes glanced at the crew around her, faces pale but determined. "Remember, they think us weak," she said quietly. "Let's show them what being human means." Outside, the nebula roared. The Helios fleet closed in, confident their trap was working. But inside the Phoenix, a fire burned brighter than any alien weapon. The fight was far from over. "Hold the line," Hayes commanded. "We'll find a way through this maze. We always do." As the Helios ships unleashed their deadly barrage, Colonel Hayes and Captain Castillo exchanged a knowing glance, ready to reveal the secret that would turn the tide of the battle. "Shields at 50% and dropping," Castillo reported, voice tight but steady. Hayes nodded. "Enough of this. Initiate neural link protocol. Shut down all external sensors." The order hit the crew like a shockwave. Screens went dark, consoles powered down. The Phoenix fell into silence, broken only by the hum of life support and heartbeat monitors. "Everyone, helmets on." "Eyes closed," Hayes commanded, her voice calm and sharp. The crew obeyed instantly. Sleek neural helmets snapped over their heads. Their eyelids fluttered shut as soft pulses of blue light traced along their temples. Outside, the nebula storm raged, massive clouds of charged gas sparking with deadly radiation. The Helios warships loomed, their weapons ready to finish the job. But inside the Phoenix, something extraordinary was about to happen. "Forget the sensors," Hayes said softly over comms. "We're going blind. Trust your instincts, trust each other." For years, humanity had honed a secret, a way to navigate chaos without sight or logic. It was ancient as the stars themselves, mixed with cutting-edge technology, neural interfaces merging minds into one. "Feel the maze," Castillo murmured, eyes closed. A flicker of light sprang to life above the command deck. A holographic projection shimmered, a ghostly map of the nebula maze. But it wasn't from scanners. It was born from human intuition. Each crew member's neural signals fed into the system. Their brains worked as one hive mind, feeling the subtle shifts in gravitational waves, the faint echoes of radiation bursts, the ebb and flow of ionized gas. The maze's deadly energy became a language the humans understood. Hayes' voice was steady, almost serene. "Left turn, sharp dip ahead, radiation spike at 2 o'clock. Adjust course." The Phoenix obeyed. The ship slid smoothly through twisting corridors of nebula, dodging invisible hazards. The Helios fleet blinked in confusion. "How?" snapped a Helios captain over the enemy comms. "They're moving like ghosts! They can't be reading sensors!" another growled. "Their ships vanish and reappear unpredictably." But the humans were not blind. They were blindfolded, trusting gut instincts and the strength of their minds united. "Focus on the paths that feel right," Castillo said softly. "The maze's chaos is our guide." On the hologram, safe corridors glowed green. Deadly traps flickered red. This mental map shifted in real time, a living thing forged by human determination. Incoming Helios strike group at 10 o'clock, warned the weapons officer. Hayes smiled beneath her helmet. Then let's make sure they can't catch us. Suddenly, the Phoenix spun in a graceful arc, slipping into a narrow nebula shaft barely a ship's width wide. The Helios cruisers surged forward, weapons blazing, but their massive frames were too big for the maze's tight confines. They stumbled, hitting invisible energy eddies. A Helios flagship shuddered violently, its engines faltering. Helios fleet losing formation, Castillo noted. Hayes took a deep breath. Hold this course. Trust the map. The cruise minds hummed in perfect harmony. No one spoke aloud now. They were one organism, sensing the maze's patterns as if born within it. Adjusting neural sync frequency, Castillo reported. We're sharpening our perception. Good, Hayes said. Use the maze's energy against them. The Phoenix harnessed the nebula's ion storms, riding bursts of charged particles like a surfer on a cosmic wave. Helios ships tried to follow, but their sensors flailed in the radiation fog. The humans' unpredictable moves confused and scattered the enemy. Brace for sudden acceleration, warned the pilot. The Phoenix lurched forward, slipping past a collapsing ion cloud just as a Helios destroyer was caught in its blast. An explosion bloomed behind them, lighting the nebula's swirling colors in fiery hues. Target disabled, the weapons officer confirmed. Hayes' voice was calm but fierce. They thought they could trap us in darkness. Instead, they've lit the way. The crew opened their eyes as neural helmets powered down. Screens flickered to life, but now the map was clear. We've mapped the maze, Castillo said, breath steady but exhilarated, all from instinct and neural sync. Hayes stood tall on the bridge, staring out into the nebula's glowing depths. Helios thought they could cage us with fear and science, she said. But humans don't just survive chaos, we master it. The Phoenix surged forward, a beacon of human resilience. And the Helios fleet was left to wonder, how do you fight a foe that sees the invisible, trusts the unknown, and conquers the impossible? Because humanity's greatest weapon wasn't tech or firepower. It was their heart, their mind, their unbreakable spirit, a secret no alien had ever truly understood until now. What the Helios didn't know was that our success came from more than just skill. It came from a stubborn human spirit that refuses to back down. As I stood there, blindfolded and steady, I couldn't help but think about what this meant for all of us. I, Colonel Lisa Hayes, activated the ship-wide comms. The static hissed through the channel. The Helios fleet was out there, listening. I wanted them to hear every word. This is Colonel Lisa Hayes of the UESN Phoenix, I began, voice calm but fierce. You thought you could trap us. You thought we'd break beneath your maze, beneath your weapons, your tricks. I paused. The nebula roared around us, its deadly storms pulsing like a heart of fire and shadow. The ship trembled, but our minds were sharper than ever. You called us weak, primitive, reckless, but you forgot one thing. I clenched my fists, feeling the neural link thrumming with every heartbeat of my crew. Captain Zuri Castillo stood by my side, eyes closed, her face serene yet fierce. We are survivors. Our ancestors lived on worlds where the air burned and the ground shifted beneath their feet, where every day was a fight for breath, for shelter, for life. We learned to see in darkness, to hear what others missed, to trust each other when no sensor could guide us. We turned chaos into order. The silence that followed felt thick. I imagined the Helios commanders, their cold faces tightening. They hadn't expected this. You set your deadly maze to break us, to cage us. But you forgot that humans don't just survive chaos, we thrive in it. While your ships falter, your sensors fail, we map the impossible. We feel the maze in our minds. We become the maze. I opened my eyes, meeting the gaze of my crew. They were ready. Fierce, unbreakable. Tivian elders once warned you to beware us. They spoke of a species that fights not just with weapons, but with heart and will. Tonight, you see why. I stepped forward, voice rising. We are not prey to be hunted. We are hunters. You may hold the stars and the laws of war, but we hold something stronger, the fire of humanity. I looked out at the swirling nebula beyond the viewport. It was no longer a prison. It was our battlefield. We will not be caged. We will not be broken. If you think this ends here, if you think you've won, then you have already lost. Because we are coming, and when we do, the galaxy will remember that humans do not bow. We do not break, we do not die. The static crackled one last time before silence fell. The Phoenix was alive with energy. The crew's nerves steadied, their spirits lifted. We had the edge now. We had the right to fight back. Captain Castillo placed a steady hand on my shoulder. We're ready, Colonel. Good, because the galaxy is about to learn a lesson. The Helios had underestimated us. They thought the maze would be the end. Instead, it was the beginning. But just when hope seemed lost, a sudden shift in the stars gave the humans a chance to fight back. The swirling clouds of the Nebula maze glowed brighter, casting eerie shadows across the battered hull of the UESN Phoenix. Outside, the Helios warships prowled like hunters. But something had changed. Colonel Lisa Hayes stood at the command console, eyes sharp as Captain Zuri Castillo called out from the navigation station. "Sensors dead again, Colonel. The maze is scrambling everything." Hayes clenched her jaw. "Then we stop relying on sensors. We're going blind." Time to trust ourselves. The Phoenix shuddered as a pulse of radiation from a Helios cruiser slammed into its left shield. Sparks flew from the console. The ship groaned but still held. "Brace for impact. Shields down to 30%, Castillo warned. Hayes nodded. "Hold steady. We're not done yet." The Helios fleet tightened their noose, cutting off escape routes with deadly precision. But the humans had learned to turn the maze's chaos into their weapon. "Neural link helmets on," Hayes ordered. "Castillo, bring the crew into the blindfolded map sequence." It's time to dance with the Nebula. Crew members slipped on sleek helmets, their eyes closed calmly. In the dim command deck, soft hums of neural data filled the air. Hayes felt the pulse of the maze, not with sensors, but with her mind. The Nebula's deadly clouds twisted and writhed like living things. Radiation storms flickered unpredictably. But the humans were no longer prisoners. They were hunters. "Helios don't understand this place," Hayes murmured. "They rely on machines. We rely on instinct." Castillo's voice cut in. "They're hanging too close to the radiation belts. I see 3 cruisers moving straight into a storm. I'm sending a mental ping to the Thunderbolt and Juggernaut. Reinforcements are ready." "Good," Hayes replied. "Let's split them up. Make the maze our ally." The Phoenix surged forward, weaving through corridors of glowing gas. The Helios ships pursued, blind to the traps ahead. Suddenly, a Helios cruiser flashed into view, its weapons locked on the Phoenix. "Evasive maneuvers," Castillo shouted. The Phoenix twisted sharply, disappearing into a spiraling cloud of ionized gas. The cruiser followed, but its sensors failed. It barreled blindly into a dense radiation storm. A brilliant explosion lit the Nebula as the cruiser's engines overloaded. "Got one," Castillo cheered. Hayes smiled grimly. "That's the first. Make it count." The Phoenix darted deeper, its crew synchronized in a hive-mind dance. Every pilot, every gunner moved as one. The neural link mapped the maze in real time. From the shadows, the Thunderbolt and Juggernaut struck. "Thunderbolt to Phoenix," crackled Captain Ramius' voice. "Engaging from the rear, targeting Helios cruiser Alpha 7. It's isolated." "Copy that," Hayes replied. "Well, herd the rest toward you." The Helios ships panicked. Their formation broke apart as they struggled to keep up with the unpredictable humans. "Look at them," Castillo said, voice full of awe. "They're falling apart, lost in their own trap." Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers in the Nebula's haze. The Helios cruisers collided with unstable spatial vortices. One was caught in a glowing rift and torn apart by tidal forces. Another's engines were fried by a sudden surge of radiation. Hayes stood tall on the command deck, watching the chaos unfold. "This maze was meant to kill us," she said quietly, "but it's only revealed how adaptable we are." A broadcast cut through the static. It was the Helios Admiral, voice trembling. "Surrender, humans. You cannot win." Hayes' eyes flashed. She leaned into the comms. "We didn't come here to surrender. We came to survive, and to show you the price of underestimating us." The Phoenix and its sister ships executed a coordinated strike. "Now, Castillo," Hayes ordered. The Phoenix unleashed a barrage of plasma beams and missile swarms. Ramanang. The Thunderbolt and Juggernaut flanked the remaining Helios cruisers. Caught off guard and trapped by their own fear, the Helios fleet faltered. One by one, their ships were disabled or forced to retreat deeper into the maze. "Helios fleet retreating," Castillo reported. "They're breaking off." Hayes allowed herself a brief smile. We turned the maze into a weapon. They thought it would be our tomb. Instead, it became their trap. The nebula's deadly clouds shimmered around the victorious human ships. Hayes looked to the stars beyond the maze, the path home, clearer than ever. Today we showed what it means to be human, she said softly. Stronger than machines, smarter than fear, unbreakable in the face of death. Castillo nodded. They'll remember this day, the day humans danced blindfolded through death and won. The Phoenix led the fleet forward, breaking free from the nebula's grasp. Behind them, the Helios could only watch in stunned silence. The tide had turned. With the Helios fleet closing in, Hayes and Castillo held their breath. Then, against all odds, their blindfolded navigation unveiled a hidden path, turning the tide in humanity's favor. The Phoenix slipped through the twisting tendrils of the nebula like a shadow. The swirling gas clouds burned with eerie blue light, but the ship moved with deadly grace. Behind them, the Helios cruisers faltered, caught in the maze's deadly traps. Captain, we're clear of the main cluster, reported Lieutenant Johann Pierce, eyes gleaming beneath the neural link helmet. Path stable for the next 10 clicks. Hayes nodded, fists clenched. Good. Keep those neural feeds synced. We can't lose this edge. Outside, the nebula's storms crackled, electric arcs lashing at the trailing Helios ships. One cruiser veered sharply to avoid a burst of radiation, only to slam into a dense gas wall. Explosions rippled through the haze, painting the nebula with fiery orange bursts. Looks like the maze is doing our work for us, Castillo said, a fierce grin breaking across her face. Helios didn't count on us knowing their playground better than they do, or on us playing by our own rules, Hayes replied. The Phoenix holomap glowed, a living web of light traced by the crew's collective mind. Each pulse, each neuron fired in sync, revealing safe corridors through chaos. The Helios fleet scrambled, their formations breaking apart. Admiral Petrov to Thunderbolt and Juggernaut, Hayes ordered. Engage on my mark. We hit hard, fast, and vanish. The massive human warships burst from the nebula's shadows, plasma cannons blazing, their shots carved through Helios shields, tearing holes in enemy armor. The Tibian warnings echoed in Hayes' mind. Ancient races lost because they underestimated humans' hunger and resilience. Target the lead cruiser, Castillo commanded, fingers flying over controls. Pierce, feed me their sensor data. Pierce's eyes darted, reading raw neural input. Got it! Their engines are overheating. They won't last long. The lead Helios cruiser shuddered, sparks flying from its damaged hull. It tried to retreat, but the maze had it trapped. Another sudden surge of nebula radiation slammed into its rear, crippling propulsion. Helios fleet is breaking apart, said Castillo. They don't know where to go. They're lost. Hayes' voice was steel, and that's going to cost them. Prep boarding teams were taking one cruiser intact. A ripple of cheers spread through the Phoenix crew. This was more than survival. It was victory. The Helios flagship Solaris appeared faintly through the nebula's edge, its massive bulk silhouetted against distant stars. Hayes knew this wasn't the end. The Helios would regroup. They would come back stronger. But now humanity held the map, the neural chart of the deadly nebula maze, knowledge that turned death traps into hunting grounds. Helios commanders, Hayes broadcast over the jammed channels. Her voice rang out clear and fierce. You thought us fragile, reckless. You forced us into your maze, and we emerged unscathed. She let the words hang in the void for a moment. This nebula is no prison. It's a challenge we conquered blindfolded. And next time, we won't just survive. We will break your fleets. We will shatter your empires. Silence answered. Then static. Prepare to jump to coordinates Delta 90, Hayes ordered. Everyone, battle stations, we're bringing this fight home. Castillo looked at her, eyes blazing. They'll never expect what comes next. Hayes smiled grimly. They'll learn. They always do. Outside, the nebula began to fade behind them, revealing the glittering stars beyond, the vast galaxy waiting. The humans had escaped the Helios trap. They had charted the impossible, and now, armed with neural maps and unbreakable will, they were ready. This was only the beginning. The galaxy would hear humanity's roar. And no empire, Helios or Tibian would dare underestimate them again.